Good evening, everyone. I just would like to confirm if all of our guests is here. It looks like David and Stacy are the only ones here. Am I correct?
Yes, I see. No, you have Ronald, we have Stacy here, you have David here, you have Ronald, the president of NAACP here. I don't see Tyranny.
I don't see Ronald. Maybe he's on the phone.
He's on the iPad. Ronald's on the iPad.
Okay, then thank you. So I guess we'll get started. There's multiple questions, Justice and Beyond News that attack and support issues that may be affecting the community at large. And tonight we're talking about the RTA and its role and the union, and trying to get some historical content on what's actually happening and how can we move it forward, or how can we be supportive. And I'll start with David, and asking you, David, to give some history of the ULU, Local 100 Union at RTA.
Absolutely, and thanks for including me in that prayer there. I apologize to folks. I'm in an airport working on getting back home after visiting family in Michigan. But yeah, so the United Labor Union's Local 100 has represented administrative employees at the RTA for 20 some years. And we've been reviving the local there over the last year. In the course of that process, a lot of folks who had not enjoyed union representation decided that they wanted to have that and join our union. So the ATU that Valerie's a leader in represents the bus drivers, operators, and IBEW represents the mechanics. But these folks, operations supervisors, safety analysts, other administrative people that we hadn't had yet, wanted to have union rights, wanted to be able to collectively bargain for their pay and wages and have a say in improving RTA, a real voice. So they joined our union as of March. And in March, we let RTA know that we had just about nearly everybody from those job classes ask for union recognition. And from March through August, RTA was very receptive to this. They said, not a problem. We just need to finish our negotiations with the other unions, but we respect your right to unionize. They told us that over and over again. And then come August, when we had to actually bargain on an issue where some paratransit supervisors were getting their schedules really unfairly messed with, we said, we got to bargain over that. And that was the time at which RTA all of a sudden changed their tune and started to say, we're not going to recognize these folks who want a union. They made different legal arguments for why. At first, they said a law called the National Labor Relations Act doesn't allow them to unionize. Then a couple days later, they turned around and said, actually, we think that law doesn't even apply to you all at all. And that's the reason why we don't want you to unionize. But so basically, the goalposts just moved around. And the point was they didn't want to sit down and negotiate with these members. So we've been taking actions over the last month to try to get them to change course. We've been putting pressure on them because we think it's important. I don't know if you've been following the news or you ride the bus, but RTA is really struggling right now. They're operating at about 50% of their capacity. People are waiting hours for the buses. And yeah, there's a lot of big picture issues that are causing that. But one of the ones we can fix right now is the morale issues in the labor force. For instance, our maintenance supervisors, who are our members, one of them worked 33 days straight to try to have to pick up the holes that they're dealing with because their mechanic training program is not working right now. 2 of the 6 maintenance supervisors just left in the past month. Basically, all the mechanics they've hired in the past 6 months have quit because conditions are so bad there. That's part of the reason why those buses are not getting fixed in time and are not getting out on the streets, and why our whole city is struggling because of that. So that's one of the things we want to get to the table with RTA, make some proposals around. We don't want anybody to have to work in unsafe conditions. We want the maintenance supervisors to make the kind of pay that they deserve. Right now, they're supervising folks who are getting paid much more than them because they're not eligible for any overtime, even though they work crazy hours. These are things that need to change. And we have folks all across the agency who could really, we have a lot of great proposals that we think will improve the agency. but they just got to respect our members' union rights. We just had a Republican sweep in this state. We all know the Republican Party is very anti-union. We got to stay strong here, and New Orleans leaders should not be opposing people's union rights. We know now that this is a fully public sector union, so it's entirely up to the Board of Commissioners at RTA and the mayor to make this happen. So what we're asking for is the help of community supporters who believe in workers' rights and believe in a better RTA to get in touch with the Board of Commissioners and the mayor, the CEO, Lona Hankins, and tell them to change course and just bargain a fair deal with us. So that's where we're at, basically. We're asking for support. Next week on Tuesday on the 31st at 10 a.m., there's a Board of Commissioners meeting. We're going to go and lobby each of the commissioners at the end of the meeting. So we'll meet at 11 o'clock toward the end of that meeting. And then basically we're going to divide up into groups and all go approach different Board of Commissioners members and say, what's the holdup? Because we've been there twice now, and every time all the people on the board say they're supportive. So if they're really running the show, they should deal with whatever has been the block, whether it's an attorney who's got the wrong idea or whatever, and do the right thing and respect the union rights of our 40 members who work at the RTA. So. Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll lean into a little bit more about the support and what people can do as we get to the end. Okay. Thank you. Stacy, we're going to turn to you and just want to know, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been at RTA? Have you been active in the previous union? Have you been active in what's going on right now? And as I understand, you are an employee or have been an employee, and what's your thoughts about this, what's going on?
Well, I'm one of the organizers of when the supervisors began unionizing in regards to getting in touch with ULU, with David, and because few of the senior supervisors contacted me. They said they had tried starting the union once before, and it kind of fell on a dormant stage. So along with Valerie, Valerie and I got in contact with David, and we started the process of unionizing and went through the fact with a lot of the supervisors. I got them to sign up along with Miss Tyranny Clark. She assisted with a lot of issues in regards. I'm no longer at RTA. I left as of September 25th. Just as David just was outlining some of the things that was going on in regards to the state of the company. I have applied for over 16 positions within the company, and I have been passed over by less qualified individuals on every attempt that I have applied for. And I just couldn't stand by and watch the destruction of the whole system, knowing that I'm working for people who don't even have a clue to what exactly is going on in regards to the transportation era. Yes, we have mechanics who are not qualified to work on the current buses that they have. They ordered a total of 6. The total fleet before I left there, it was supposed to be 140 buses. Out of the 140 buses, 67 of them were new buses, less than 4 years old. The excuse that they're giving the board in regards to the buses not being on the road is that they have an aging fleet. So you have more than half of your fleet that are less than 4 years old, but you don't have mechanics qualified to fix them. If you go on the lot, you have more of the new buses on the dead lane, which we would call the dead lane, than you have the older buses. You have more of the older buses on the street than the newer buses because they purchased those buses and didn't properly train the mechanics on how to work on them. Now they're talking about they're getting new electric buses coming in in 2024, but their mechanic has been set to be trained on the buses. The whole organization in regards to how they're running and the day-to-day operation is totally shot. You have people who don't have a clue to how to run a business. I have over 25 years of experience, even though it was in the quick service industry, but managing businesses from the bottom up, opening up restaurants, as well as I had 21 years of experience in the military, where I ran the whole maintenance squadron of C-5 aircrafts and never missed a schedule. And you mean to tell me I couldn't manage 140 buses? And you're talking about $1 billion aircrafts? But they're putting, it's all about who you know is not what you know in regards to the company. And that's why the situation is where it's at. And the morale, as David stated, the morale is so bad there that, but a lot of folks are caught there because of the fact of, that's their income, their bread and butter, and their lifestyle has been accustomed to what they make there. And for the supervisors leaving, yes, the mechanics are making more because the supervisors are on salary. They don't have them on an hourly, and they're asking them to work 12 and 16-hour shifts, but they're not getting compensated for it.
Let me ask you this: if you on a percentage of workers at RTA currently, how many of them are involved in y'all efforts to create a union?
Well, there's the ATU and there's the IBEW for the maintenance workers, and ATU is for the operators. Supervisors, we never really had a union. I know Valerie said a few years back there was one years ago, but since I've been there, I had been there almost 5 years, and there wasn't a union for the supervisors. And when we started this plight in regards to getting a union, it was, we had to do it on a low key because at that time we had the guy there, Mr. Gouda, who was kind of vindictive, and a lot of guys was real scared in regards to how they had to move kind of silently.
Got you. All right, thank you.
Ernest, you're muted.
You mute, Ernest. Okay.
Yeah, the lady, how do you pronounce her name? Is Tirana? Is she on?
Tyranny. Is Tyranny made it? Tyranny made it? Stacy, you see Tyranny? I don't see her.
No. Okay, then we're gonna keep on moving forward. Is Mr. Ronald Colvin from the NAACP? He's here with us. Okay. Yes.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, Ronald. The question to you is, are you aware of this issue at RTA, and has the NAACP been active in trying to support labor unions there?
Well, let me give you history. We had administration just been fired. We've been involved in this struggle for the last 15 years. I brought some of the union members back of the fight we've been doing. But one of the things in this fight is not a time to beat your drum, is get the work done. We did some investigative work and folks resigned, and we're still doing some more work, and some other folks are going to resign because they're receiving federal funds. Currently have the union going to be meeting with the Vice President of the Council, Ms. Elena Moreno, in the next couple of days. I don't have the date in front of me. And we're going through the process because, as I say, they deal with federal funds as well as state funds and city. But the governing agent is the city. And one of the things, as dear brother just spoke, we have observed over the last couple of years, if I'm a driver, I can get disciplined to the max. But if I'm, like they say, hooked up and I'm a driver, nothing happens. So what are we trying to institute is a fairness in governance of the RTA, from the driver to the maintenance shop to everybody has their position, which is called professional responsibility. But unfortunate, we've had some terrible directors. As I say, they just resigned less than a year ago as we got involved in that. We did what we needed to get them done. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just can't say, hey, look what we're doing. You have to keep the work because it's not over. There's a lot of things has to happen at RTA to clean it. It is a mess to clean this mess up. We know folks are not certified. We know a lot of mechanics are not certified. They haven't been properly trained. Then there's safety. We need to have a safety inspector, which I know as a mechanical engineer. You need to walk that bus along with the drivers and inspection to see that it's properly ready to come out. I've seen wheels wobble on the bus, and the wheel wobble on the bus means you have lost your weight on your wheels. So it's a lot of things that's happening. It's related to safety of the passengers, safeties of the drivers, and safety, period. And it's an ongoing process, and we can't say victory till it's really won. But we're going to constantly continue to work to get it done. and we stand behind the union fully. But I do have one objection. I was a member of the IBEOW back in 1979. As we started integrated the union, they was on Cleveland and Canal. They moved. I have a letter. My son, with 3 years of college, applied for the apprenticeship program. And they say, if you have 2,000 hours, you come. And I also have my eyes on the IBEOW. They're not that good to folks of our color. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again. So we are mindful to what's going on, but we're in total support. If they prove differently that things have changed, we're supporting IBEOW. But I was behind Local 100 because they've been fair and operating, and everyone has had a piece at the table. But as I close, the IBEOW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, they was chosen after Local 100 was there. So like I said, I have my suspicions with them because they have a terrible track record when it comes to racism. And I'm not going to retract that statement. All right, if you look at the union, the IBEOW, there have been a lot of complaints related to racism. So at the end of the day, we are there. We're going to continue to fight. We're not backing down, and we're not going to retract. And if we, anytime we need to be there, we are there. So we're here.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna keep you here, Ronald, for a follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
In your observation, in all fairness, you kind of leaned into this. Do you feel like that the employees and at RTA and specifically the other union you spoke of, on overall, are they getting specific treatment or being recognized as employees opposed to them who have relationships or connected to the staff or administration in a different way? Or do you think it's fairness across the board?
It is not fair across the board. Because some litigation, we know some drivers, even with some supervisor over the handicap, right? Now, this is part of where you looked at. Here's the guy, the supervisor over the handicap, and he's handicapped. He takes the handicap ride out to the club. Now, you could get picked up at Birch's. I don't have a problem. You're going to a funeral, to church, or to the store, but then you could get picked up from the club. Does everybody has that same opportunity? That's my question. It's a lot of things. I have a list, a laundry list. There's no structure of fairness within RTA, and within the last 20 years, it has depleted down. And I know the days when it was fair and open to everyone, and everyone had an opportunity to elevate themselves, but it's so politically connected now. It's a cesspool of waste of public and taxpayers' money. We're going to continue until there's some efforts put in place that you're treated fair and equity, that we even look into going to a wage and hour and the labor board. Because at the end of the day, you got, I take Ms. Valley. There's the delay tactic with the attorney. They have some things that happen that folks get right back reinstated because who you know. And then the folks that's doing the justice and the fight and speaking up, because injustice to you is injustice to me. If they speak up and have an idea, just stand around, they're punished. So we have to put things in place to make sure the employees are covered, and we need a monitoring committee. And my strong suggestion is we get folks from throughout the city, community-based organization. We need to set up a monitoring committee that the workers and everybody that can bring it before this committee, that we're not employed there. We have no interest in the board no more than it's fair and equitable to every employee, from the janitor to the executive. And that's just where we are.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
David, we're going to turn to you. Are RTA following a process and a procedure according to the law and federal guidelines and working in good faith with the union, specifically ULU Local 100? Because I think there's some information, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there possibly was an invite for some public, from RTA to be representative at this particular meeting, but they feel like y'all are still in negotiations, so they declined to come.
Yeah, this is not, unfortunately, not the case. But this is part of a recent track record where RTA is kind of not really being honest. So what they're talking about is that there were charges with the National Labor Relations Board, but those charges have been withdrawn now that the board has ruled that the RTA is public sector completely, which just means that we are not governed as a private sector employer. However, in Louisiana, there is state law that protects workers in this exact situation who work for a transit agency that was private and is now public, as is the situation with RTA. And Louisiana state law says that collective bargaining has to take place. This is the only type of workers in Louisiana public sector who have this protection. And that has to do with federal law that was passed in the 60s to protect transit workers specifically. So I don't think they really know the law. I mean, that's what the board agent basically said is, you know, their attorneys probably have never really looked at this issue, and that's why they kept moving the goalposts. But the National Labor Board stuff is done, and this is completely within the discretion of the Board of Commissioners. I say discretion, it's totally up to them to fix this, but it goes even further, which is that state law says they need to respect the right to unionize of these workers. So we feel no, they haven't been operating in any definition we'd say of good faith. I mean, they spent months claiming they were all good with it, would negotiate with us. When it actually started with our federal mediator that they picked, they all of a sudden pulled the rug out from under us. And now they basically just have gone radio silent with us. I think they're basically hoping to ignore people to death and demoralize people, which can be an effective strategy. You know, it's been months of us pushing to even sit and discuss. But we want them to come back to the table and operate in good faith.
Thank you for that. So Stacey, we're gonna turn back to you. Can you tell us, you know, in a short term, why you left, or if the environment would change, would you go back if it was a fair? And do they have any other employees that kind of left for the same reasons you left?
Well, I left because, as I stated, that, you know, my goal as far as career advancement was time. I feel as though that I was blacklisted for as employment, because I speak out, speak my mind, and speak out in regards to what is wrong. I have no problem with speaking truth to power. As many may not know, I just ran for state representative out in St. Bernard Parish for District 103. So I have no problem with challenging authority, challenging when something is wrong. And I feel as though that many of the positions that I applied for, they blackballed me because of the fact that that's the person that I am. If it's wrong, I'm gonna call it out. And if it's right, I definitely can go along with it. And I believe, yes, there's a lot of employees who decided to go other way. There's some who are looking to move now. If they find the right fit, they're gonna leave. You know, the company as a whole, just as David pointed out, you know, we've been pointed out before I left in regards to the mayor signed and the city council signed an ordinance making it okay to unionize, and they're still not honoring that as well. So there's many things that they're trying to fight and stop in regards to the fairness of the labor, because there's been times when, you know, they tried, as a supervisor, they wanted us to come to work, and even when on our off days, they was telling us that we had to come to work because they were shorthanded or what have you. You know, certain people was getting, you know, schedules in regards to for what worked for them, and as long as, you know, the senior supervisor, even though we all were supervisors, those who had been in positions longer, they had the plush schedules, and they didn't care what the other schedules looked like for the ones who were on the back end of the supervisor totem pole. So there were many things that, you know, we had to fight for.
Thank you. David, is the national ULU local union supporting y'all in y'all efforts, or do y'all have attorneys, or what kind of, you know, national support you all are getting, and what kind of groundswell outside of the people you have on this forum tonight supporting you all efforts to amplify what you all are saying?
Well, this is, you know, a small union that So we definitely have other members in Texas and Arkansas as well, and around the city in different parts of Louisiana. But we're, we're fighting to build that. We've reached out to state representatives, state, church organizations, things. So we're building everywhere we can, but we can use all the help we can get for sure.
But tell me this, is there similar unions across the country that are doing similar work, or y'all trying to achieve somewhat like-minded that can give y'all or lend the support to y'all?
So there are definitely other unions of supervisors around the country, but the support we need is really on the local front, because the mayor and the board of commissioners are the ones who decide. So I see Beth asking about how they're different. So basically these supervisors don't hiring and firing power is what it comes down to at the end of the day. But there are many supervisors unionized around the country from California to New York, and our folks are just trying to.
Yeah, I think we lost his communication, or he's muted. We probably lost him. It seems like we lost him because he just went off automatically, but I'll turn back to Ronald for the time being and hope that he can come back and join us.
Yes, sir.
Ronald, just, from your expertise and given the history that you have had with this, what would you suggest? How could they win in this situation? Who they should be turning to outside of the governance that they have spoken about? What will be your tactics and to give them support and lend how we can move this forward?
Well, we have a civil rights organization, NAACP. We're here. We're asking for community-based organizations and our social activists throughout the city. We have a very strong social active committees in the city, primarily the one we're talking to right now, Justice and Beyond. It started out Justice for Bernadette, and it worked. And the process has been working. It's been recognized with different issues throughout the city. And I am glad that the union and the members of RTA turned to Justice and Beyond, which is a strong, viable, trusted organization. And with all of us together, I do know we will get some changes. And that's we have to change the whole structure at RTA, and there's some accountability. And who appoint those people? The governance bodies, all these city council. And that's why we started with the council. Even though the labor board, the Department of Labor, Wage and Hour, and the federal government know what's going on. And as I say, some folks resigned because that hammer was coming down. The last administration, they left with a whole bunch of folks. So now we're coming from the end with the council. We started with the council, the vice president of the council, and get the chairman of the transportation committee. I think that's Mr. Green. After we talked to Mr. Lane, we have the full council support from there. And it should be some changes and some accountabilities put in place, because it is, again, a appointed position that's governed by the city council, and it's a quasi board of RTA. And they do have rules and regulations they're bounded by, but they're not doing them, and there's no one to enforce them. So that's why I think this community independent committee should have a 3-year window that you serve for 3 years. You have no affiliation with RTA, and it's an open public meeting where you get grievances and situations brought to the board to have some power to make decisions as related to operating the RTA, and mainly with the riders in line and the workers. That's what it's all about.
All right, thank you. And if you can hang around a little bit more, maybe have some
Okay.
open-end questions from the public. But I would like to give Stacy in closing, what you think, Stacy, that can be more supportive, amplify this more so that you can accomplish the goals that you are aiming at, and any suggestion for folks on this call tonight and how they can support you.
Well, just as I stated, prior to me becoming a supervisor, I was a member of ATU, Local 1560. And what we did was we had a ride along, and we had the service workers and other organizations join in with us, which Valerie at the time was the president. She spearheaded. We was all a part of that effort. And we had local media came out and I think it made waves, but I think getting the support of the community behind, just as David stated and Mr. Coleman stated, getting those organizations to back the union at RTA, let them know, because the public is not happy. As you know, we have riders. Prior to me leaving, there was a gentleman came and said that his employer told him don't come to work until he can get to work on time, because he's waiting on an RTA bus to get him to work because there's no buses available out there. The buses are broken. I used to be the lot supervisor dispatching the buses, and it was like I had to roll the dice every morning to try to get certain lines, and I had to steal from this line to make sure that that line was covered in order to get buses on certain lines. And it shouldn't be that way, but the administration, they're steady hiring administrative staff up in the upper level, you know, six-figure employees, but they're not doing anything to aid the workers in regards to getting mechanics certified and qualified to fix the buses. One of the things that they're here, you know, which there is a problem with suppliers getting parts, but it's not all the suppliers, because RTA has a bad track record of paying their bills, and a lot of suppliers don't want to lend them the credit in regards to sending them parts. So, you know, we have many issues that's being to the forefront, but at the end of the day, yes, the workers are suffering, but at the end of the day, the public is suffering because of the bad administration and bad management.
Thank you. So I signed up to facilitate this conversation, and I understand we were supposed to have another guest, and unfortunately they weren't able to join us tonight. But I think there are some powerful questions in the chat that I think Valerie is going to take over. And from what I've read in the chat, I think Ms. Beth Butler raised some great points and ways that maybe y'all can be supportive, and they have supported you all in your efforts. I want to just encourage you to keep on doing the work you're doing. Valerie, keep on doing what you're doing. And as always, Ronald Coleman, you continue to lift your voice. You've been in the community for a long time. Continue to use your voice to amplify these issues. I have to leave you guys, but y'all have a great evening and don't give up.
Okay, thank you, Ernest. Thank you for coming in and starting us off. We appreciate you. Do we have any questions? This is the part of the questions. Do we have any questions for, okay, Miss Betty, you would like to state your question, please?
Yeah, thank you, Val. And I guess I need to first say that the new director of RTA has been a close friend of mine for many years before she's a neighbor, and we've been friends for a long time. And I reached out to her when Val first presented this to us and said, we would really like for you to participate. And she's the one that told me that until the National Labor Relations Board allowed them to have the supervisors join this administrative union, that she's being told by the attorneys that she could not discuss it publicly. And I wanted to make that statement, but my question is, it seems to me that we've got two big issues here. We've got this union issue, which has to be resolved, because I get the fact that we're a right to work state and they can fire and promote in this state however they want to. I get that. I mean, I understand that. I don't agree with it, but that's where we are. But I guess my concern is, even if they are allowed to join the union, what do we do about all the issues that Stacy's talked about safety and buses not being on time, and the problems, with the administration? Because I know when Ms. Hankins came in, there was a lot of conflict to keep her out of there. by people who are already there. So it seems to me that this is a huge RTA issue that I'm glad we are learning about. But once they join the union, what do we still do about the rest of the stuff? And Stacy, Val, you or
Stacy,
whoever
you,
can answer.
oh, wait a minute, David, Stacy, David, David, you can answer this
Oh,
since you on the, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Or no? Okay. I was just gonna say, yeah, I think confusion at the top of RTA about his question because of that RTA contracted with a private management firm to where now they're a fully public authority. So I think we all didn't know whether the NLRA, it's called, still had jurisdiction over the agency. But we know definitively now it doesn't, which was the position of their attorneys actually. In the end, was that the NLRA doesn't have jurisdiction. Their first rationale was what you said, that a question about whether the act would allow the supervisors in, but that pretty quickly changed. And I'd be happy to shoot over both of the contradictory emails from their counsel, kind of confusing the issue and muddying the waters unnecessarily. We've withdrawn the charges. We've been told RTA that we're not going to fight that they have jurisdiction. We think it's fine that it's totally public sector. And in terms of your second question, I'd say we absolutely think this is just the beginning. But we do have some proposals that would start to address. One of those would be a quarterly labor management meeting around safety for the management to listen to safety issues that employees are seeing on the ground, come up with collaborative solutions to those. In terms of the hiring thing, we do have a proposal that if somebody gets in who isn't in our bargaining unit to a higher position, we want them to show the qualifications. We don't think they'll agree to that, but we're starting to put the pressure, on those issues. But definitely, it's going to take community support to make this happen, and we want to also hear about what we can do from our position, having the ideas that we haven't thought of to fight for in our members' contract. But yeah, so I think it's just the beginning, but we think it would be a good beginning.
Stacy, you have any input? We know you're not there anymore, but you've been there and active on both sides. You've been on, you was a driver, and also you was a supervisor, and you was active in the union, ATU, and also you've been, I want to say, executive in the addition, in the, I want to say, in the restaurant industry. So you've been executive, you know how labor work, you know how the management work, so, and you know how transit work. So how you think that both parties, ULU and RTA, can work together to have a more productive, positive workplace, and it will work better for transit as a whole in New Orleans? Do you have any solutions for both parties?
Well, and let me say this to Ms. Betty. When Ms. Hankton was going up for the CEO position, I firmly supported her in regards to her getting the position. Even after she got the position, I met with her and sat down with her and also gave her my qualifications in regards to my background and what I've done and what I've see as far as transit was concerned. And to be honest, I'm very disappointed in some of the moves that she has made in regards to that. And that is part of the reason why I left as well, because I just couldn't take it anymore watching. I'm not going to say that I'm a perfectionist, but I believe in doing the right thing, and I like to see things run smoothly. And just as Val stated, I was in the quick service industry. I did McDonald's for many years. I graduated from Hamburger University, and people look at when I say that, they laugh. But if you go back and you look at Fortune 500, there's many Hamburger University graduates running Fortune 500s companies. And I also got a degree from LSU in management and administration. And to watch, someone just because they've been there 13 years and don't have any qualifications get promoted over you, and then you have to answer to them, and you watching them making boneheaded decisions, and that that's not right, and it's affecting the overall production of the company. It's kind of hard to sit there and stomach it. So therefore, that's why I got out. But in regards to that, I really think that they need to make some hard decisions. Lorna needs to make some hard decisions. The people that she has around her, I can honestly say they don't mean her any good. She needs. I thought when she came in, she was gonna clean house, but she cleaned she got some of the riffraff out, but she didn't clean enough of it out. And that's the biggest issue that I see. And the ones who are giving her advice in regards to who to move up and who not to move up are the ones who are just trying to get their friends in the door to go there. And the overall transit agency is suffering as a whole.
Okay, Betty, did that satisfy your question? Okay, Ronald, have Lane. These folks have protected employees. Oh, okay, wait a minute. We have another. That was Beth. Before I ask my question, Beth, you was trying to ask a question. That's Beth or Lane. Oh, Beth, you would like to ask your question? Because I don't see it.
Hi, sorry, I was just making a point that to Lane's point about, how do you make things better at RTA? Just getting these particular security of union status means that they can work from within. When they don't have union status, and RTA is allowed to be arbitrary about who can be in a union and who can't, the other unions members are all vulnerable because they can get iced too. Because one of the things that they're doing is abusing the potential local 100 members in front of the other members to have a chilling impact on their complaints and their extra actions to help the public. Be aware, the only ones who are making anything out of this are the lawyers, because they have an hourly rate that is very high. We're paying it, and they are running up a bill on this whole campaign. And they're the ones who are winning, not us.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Beth. Stacy, Beth made a point that gave me a question to ask you and Ronald. Ronald, I still want you to answer
I'm still
this.
here.
Okay. Okay, now Stacy, when you was there, what was your position in the ULU 100?
I was a steward.
You was a steward, so you were one of the leaders. So
Right.
did you all have any working condition or any meetings with RTA prior to you meeting with them for negotiation? Like, did you all form a labor management meeting? Yeah. Did you all form a labor management relationship when it's time for your co-workers, your colleagues, RTA employees?
No. Only thing we did was we went before the board. It was the two stewards was myself and Ms. Tyranny Clark-Esteem. We went before the board and introduced ourselves. David sent out a letter to RTA, letting them know that we were chosen as the stewards in regards to ULU. When they had an incident in regards to with the paratransit supervisors, when we tried to meet, they kind of like shoved us to the sides. That's when the whole conflict came about, where we they were stating that we couldn't unionize and those type of things started happening.
Okay, thank you.
Did have a couple planning meetings with the federal mediator to set up scheduling. She had us on track to have some collective bargaining trainings. Both parties, they were going to pull Stacy, Tierney, and other leaders out of work. So for a while, everything looked like it was going to be hunky dory until, like Stacy said, they pulled the rug out from under us.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, David. Now, Ronald, did the
Yes, ma'am.
NAACP have any conversation with RTA, with their commissioners or with their executives? Do you send a letter? Do you make a phone call? Have a meeting with the executive of RTA or any commissioners in reference to ULU 100?
I think we have done all of the above, and we're going to continue to, as well as we had an unofficial conversation with our U.S. Congressman about RTA. Of course, you know, we have been speaking with the city council, and you guys will be meeting with them real soon, if I'm not mistaken. And we're also looking at our state legislature. I haven't really solidified something yet because of the election, but now all that is out of the way. We're going to continue to come in from every angle to continue to show our support for this struggle with the union. And I still say, I'm looking into when they talk to Local 100 and everything was okay, as dear brother stated, then you pop up with another union, IBEOW. And for the record, as I said earlier, IBEOW does not have a good looking record when it comes to civil rights in our community. That's reality. You look at the numbers. They moved out of the city. They claim they're New Orleans based, was say Metro New Orleans. They got a grant a couple of years ago for at-risk youth, 16 to 21. None of that happened. They over on Ridge Lake over in Jefferson Parish, way out there where they come. And when young men, I had some young folks to go out there to apply for the apprenticeship program and get stopped. I'm sure, of course, there's 2 or 3 in the car with dreadlocks and looking like that, but they were going to apply to get in the program. So they have not did a aggressive program to recruit folks that look like us, or the majority of folks in this city. So and you go out and get that union. And my question is, who asked them to go get them anyway? Who suggested that? You're already in negotiation with Local 100, and now you go get IBEOW. And as I said, we are totally not satisfied. As the NAACP, we're not totally satisfied with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers of Metro New Orleans. And we asked the question with them in RTA from a civil rights standpoint, how many, let's get the data breakdown. How many African Americans, how many women and other folks of color have went through the union in the last 15 years? And you'd be surprised when you see the numbers. So if you're talking about all fairness, my question is, why would you solicit a union when you had one union already that's not in favor of people of color or women?
Okay, Mr. Coleman, I want to make this point of information that the ULU 100 was forming a relationship with RTA. It was sitting down doing negotiation in the contract with
Correct.
RTA, and RTA stopped recognizing the 2 leaders, that is Tierney Clark and Mr. Stacy Riley. But afterwards, they signed a contract agreement with IBEW after they denied to continuation with negotiation with ULU. So I just want to make that point of information.
That's what I was speaking to, madam. That's what I was speaking with. I was familiar when they were already with you guys. And I say for the record, and it's recorded, I'll say it again. IBEOW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. If you ask them for their data in the last 15 years, what is the percentage when it comes to people of color and women? That's reality. So how could RTA turn around and get a group, right, that's not favorable to the makeup of this city, not make up to their own employees? So that's right there to me, from the way that I said, is that you was in good faith negotiating, and in the meantime, you ain't got a union that's not favorable for people that look like us. They're not even sensitive to people like us, and that's reality. So I'm gonna keep raising that point, and maybe I need to send a letter to. As a matter of fact, I just send a letter to you and ask them, in the last 20 years, your apprenticeship program, what is the data? on race and sex. And we'll see what we come up with.
Okay, Mr. Coleman, let's make this clear. You talking about IBEW, right? Not RTA, right?
Yeah, but no, I'm talking about RTA going out to pick a union that's not favorable to folks that works at RTA.
Okay,
It does not have the sensitivity or the makeup of the RTA body. That's need to be represented, right? The workers at RTA, I guarantee you, and I put it plain it. Ask some of them young brothers in RTA to send their sons out there to apply for IBEW and see what's going to happen. So how are you going to get a union to represent RTA or negotiate with them when they're not favorable to us as African Americans or women right now?
okay, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And I dare to retract.
All right. Yes, we know you dare to retract. We thank you for your concerns. Okay, now we have, I'm noticed, Stacy, this is a question to you and David, why you able to speak. So the question is, we have more than 2 supervisors at RTA. So I know you all send this information to the membership of ULU 100, and I know for a fact is intimidation there, is bullying there. I know this. So why you think the members of ULU is not present here or do not speak up for their treatment from their employer? Can you give us some kind of idea?
I can, well, do you want to take that, Stacey?
Yeah, they are afraid of the possibility of reprisal. That's the whole thing. That's many of them don't come on, or many of them don't show up. You have them, they'll tell you, well, I'm a part of the union. I'm paying my dues, but I'm afraid to come to show my face because I'm scared when I come to work the next day, I might be laid off or I might be fired. Some type of thing may happen to them. And, unfortunately, I'm one who has never let a job define who I was. I define what the job is. And that's why I also joined the union. I've always been in the union. My dad was a steel worker. He was in the union. So I come from a family of unionized employees. Prior to me coming to RTA, I worked for the St. Bernard Parish School System. And I was the union president of the teachers union, and I was the bus operator. So I've always fought for what was right and what needed to be done. And I think it's more fear. Mr. Good is not there anymore, but he had a reputation for retaliating against employees. So a lot of them were afraid. And I think once he left, a little more came on board, but they still had that reserve about being in the center stage, getting that spotlight on, because they feel as though once they show their face, they're gonna have their bullseye on their back. And I think that's the whole problem with what's going on in regards to them coming aboard and being a part of meetings such as this.
Okay. David, can you wait a minute, David, can you give us some information, or have any supervisors reported to you file a grievance on retaliation from RTA, losing their seniority, or their schedule been changed because of they want to be unionized?
So we've had as I read a 15-day suspension out of nowhere from a new director. What's that? So there was one supervisor that had a 15 suspension, which was totally unprecedented, put on him. He's a big union supporter. And we brought that as a group to the CEO's attention, and that group showing was enough to get them to back down on it. And so that was a case where, yes, we did move forward on that. The other case where there's definitely against another member for her schedule, but she kind of made the decision that she really wants to keep the focus on the group's needs. And so that's where her focus is right now. So she's got her own kind of procedure going to deal with her personal issues that we support. The focus to be on the fact that RTA is fighting a whole group of these employees. After I sent in earlier, we did have about 21 workers at work. And that was a step. We need to help people get step by step more and more courage and see that when they take a small action, their fellow members are going to be with them. So that's what we're working on right now too, is kind of getting up that ladder where people feel more and more comfortable. It might not seem, I know folks in a group like Justice and Beyond might not, are proud to kind of do that kind of thing, but for you're just looking for better conditions on the job, it's a big step. So we got to get them there. Instagram, though, you see Tierney and Lawrence speak where they had when we were there a couple of weeks ago also. And we'll continue to be there, in the coming weeks too. Yeah.
Thank you. Ronald, can you give us an example from your perspective and from your history and your experience as of course, as the NAACP president, as a union member, and as one of the leaders in the community? Can you give us some your aspect of this retaliation from employer?
Well, yeah, I even do it better than this. It started in 1987. The city of New Orleans was laying off their workers. And if you knew what happened in Dutch Murray, I was the first African-American mayor. But I came on the 6 months before he got on. So I was the first Black engineer, operating engineer the city hired for the city of New Orleans. They thought they was going to hire me as the chief engineer, but when I showed up, I was the wrong complexion for the right connection. So they made me assistant chief engineer. And 911 came in, and I was the only person that had the credentials to operate a nuclear reactor for the 911 computer system, which is called cryogenics. Well, when the next mayor came in, Mr. Bartholomew, there was this budget cut because there's too many city employees. And so they had all of us in the auditorium in the gold room. They had 15,000 workers they brought in that the city was going to lay off all across the board. So as the guy was saying how they was going to while we were there to be laid off with a severance pay, I asked the question, what was the criteria to lay me off? He said, well, the last 2 years of your evaluation, and that is one, and your disciplinary record. Well, I beg the difference. I just received an award. I had worked 10 years, had never missed a day. I exceed requirements every year, right, for my supervisor. And I was voted Employee of the Year 2 or 3 times. So at that time, I reached out to AMSME. Well, we tried to start a union then, and the intimidation factor, it was real serious. If you notice tonight, our mayor died, Dutch Moriel. There's the news article that City Hall garage burned up. That was my car, they burned up. I had an orange Volkswagen as I was attempting to get the union in under the new mayor. Well, my car was set on fire. About 2 weeks later, I got questioned by the federal government agency. I got detained 2 or 3 times after that. So intimidation is going to always be there. And at the end of the day, if you don't feel whatever you're going to stand, and I'm going to say it like this, I don't think I'm going to die for something, I don't need to be here. And at the end of the day, we got the evaluations back, the layoff. If you look at the news, the layoff was rescinded because it all was done because of the people they didn't want. And it was a political move by the new incoming administration. It even got so bad, one of the preachers in the city, Paul Martin, preached a sermon because the Bartholomew administration was advocating for gambling. And the sermon says the city's in trouble because the church is at fault because we are allowing gambling. Well, they went up to neutral ground. They towed over 300 cars from by the church. And when it comes to rights of people, there's going to always be some trouble. But the only thing the trouble will make it better for you. And with intimidation, let it happen. You know, I just got paused a couple of months ago, right? But I'm still here and I'm not scared. Now, I don't eat out all the time and I'll blind where I go. but I was paused in October last year with the Ronald Green. And I'm still here, and I'm not scared. And I just asked you, a coward died many times, but a man died once. So they're going to do those things. But what are you, long as you have a group and you can document and keep it on the forefront and go to the proper agencies, you're fine.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Any more questions or comments? Okay, Ms. Lane. You're on mute, Ms. Lane. You're on mute.
I really feel as though I may be the only uninformed and stupid person in the room, but that may be true, because I don't have much experience with unions, except when I was a member of SAG-AFTRA, and they were always very, very good to me. But I haven't been involved with them for years. Anyway, I don't understand. It seems to me, and I just would love to get some clarification. I've heard that I'm hearing that there are tremendous systemic problems just across the board with RTA, with all of the employees at, or almost all of the employees at RTA. And it sounds as though there are some huge issues with each of the unions. I mean, if there are problems and if there's unhappiness and morale problems with people in the ATU, which has been mentioned, the drivers and operators, and tremendous problems with the IBEOW. I mean, I'm also hearing that, and I'm just going to lay out my confusions. I also hear that there are negotiations. Are there now negotiations in progress with the ATU and with the IBEOW? Are there any negotiations? Let me back up, because if there are, I'm trying to understand how this gets teased out, because I would imagine that what it sounds to me like is that how do you try to negotiate with all of the unions at the same time? Is that what is meant by I mean, I've also heard about a call for a monitoring committee, which makes great sense, but not until you have the unions defined. And it sounds to me like people are calling for the unions to be redefined and to be remade, not just the ULU. So I apologize for my lack of clarity on this, but I would love to try to understand better what the dynamics are of how do you go after. I mean, this is not just an issue with ULU. There are issues with all of the unions. It sounds to me like there are. So how do you?
Okay.
I guess
Okay.
Val, let me interject right here.
Okay. All right.
When we approached them for ULU, we were told that we were next on because there was a negotiation with IBEW.
Mm-hmm.
IBEW had to wait because they was on negotiation with 1560. So once they finished with,
What's 1560?
that's the
ATU?
bus operators.
Okay.
Yeah, ATU.
Okay, wait,
ATU.
hey, Stacy, let me let the public know. RTA have 3 local unions on their property. They have the ATU. They are the employees working in operations. They work in operations, right? They have the IBEW. Those are the employees of maintenance, the mechanics, roadway. Okay. Then they have the ULU. That's the administration part.
Right.
But ATU also have administration part too now. They work in operations. That's the clerks, the dispatchers, the ride line, the instructors, the routers, the administration part of operations. While the ULU is upstairs with the administration, with the safety, the supervisors, the the supervisors that's joined. So Stacy, okay, now Stacy, you could tell her. I was trying to explain it to her a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, so they went through ATU first, then they went to IBEW. So by the time they got to us, at first they said, and at the board meeting, Ms. Hampton did make the statement that once they finished with IBEW, that we were next. But I don't think that they felt as though, or they didn't believe that we was gonna make as much headway as we did as far as members joining ULU. And I think that shocked them more than anything in regards to whether or not the negotiation was going on. Now, do I think Ms. Hampton is fully behind it? I don't think so. I think she's getting some bad information, and she's going with her legal counsel or what have you with advice that they are giving her in regards to making that happen. But they really need to look at the totality of the situation in regards to allowing the ULU to go forward and get unionized as far as the supervisors. That would make them much happier. They'll feel a little more at ease in regards to job security. And that's the biggest piece that's going on right now in regards to having that happen. If that would answer the question that you're looking for.
If there are already some administrators, clerks, dispatchers, et cetera, who are in the ATU, then is there any conflict or overlap with supervisors and being in the ULU with other administrators who are in the ATU?
Well, no, there's really supervisors or administrators. Okay, supervisors had applied, that was prior to me getting there. They had applied to join ATU. ATU members voted against them joining because they felt as though that the supervisor had the authority to write them up. But that's all, but it's not really a write-up. It's called an infraction if they did something wrong. And all the write-ups come from the managers. All the suspensions come from the manager. The hiring and firing come from the managers and above. We as supervisors had no jurisdiction in that aspect. Basically, we were only enforcing the rules that were given to us by administration.
Mm-hmm.
And the operators had an issue with that in regards to the supervisor joining ATU. They allowed the dispatchers who had the same authority as we had in regards to giving infractions, they allowed them to join.
Mm-hmm.
The clerks have the same thing in regards to giving them infractions for not reporting on time.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, they just didn't want the supervisors in there, which we were fine with that as well. Because, but union is union. And we're not looking to bump them or cause any conflict in regards to them. We just want our seat at the table as well.
Uh-huh. So how many, just to give me some kind of a picture, an understanding, how many members are there in each of the three unions? Let's assume that the people who have tried to join can join.
ATU, I want to say there may be around 400, give or take.
Uh-huh.
IBW, maybe about 200 to 300 as well.
Okay.
ULU, we're about the smallest. Right now we have David. If David's still on, I think we had like 40 to
About 40
members
right now.
About 40 members. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Well, thank you. You cleared up some of my questions for sure. I appreciate it.
And I just wanted to direct y'all, if you want to check out that screenshot of that joint letter that each union sent, because the issues that y'all are talking about is one of the ways that RTA's lawyer, the waters with the mayor, when we were asking for the mayor's support, our misinformed their office and said that ATU and IBEW opposed efforts, which is not at all true. So we put out this letter to clarify that They didn't want to, for jurisdictional reasons, and this is very like inside baseball, as you're getting at, Lane. It's very inside labor baseball stuff. Jurisdictions, who represents who. They didn't want them in their unions, but they, of course, support our members' right to have a union. So, yeah.
So last question, where would, if you could start anywhere, where would you, how would you like this process to go forward? What would need to happen to resolve this in your dream, in your head, in your dreams?
Just going to the table and bargain. Acknowledge and accept the members for who they are, who we are, or who we want to represent, and get to the table and negotiate. That's all we ask for in the beginning is a seat at the table.
So that's really the support that you're looking for, is to support the ULU to be able to enter into negotiations with the
Right. Get a seat at the table. That way we can have our concerns heard in regards to all the issues that we experience for us. And it's not just the supervisors. We have safety that's involved. We have the mechanic supervisors. We have some people from the accounting. We have the schedulers that are involved. So there's many other departments that are in there, and we all have concerns. And we really need to have a seat at the table to get it done.
So it sounds as if if you could get that step accomplished and get into negotiation, and let's assume it's productive negotiation with the RTA, then you could move, once you got recognized, then you and the other unions could work together to try to form, for example, that monitoring committee that you mentioned before. But that's not really part of your first step, is it?
No, the first step is getting organized, recognized, getting a contract, getting into negotiating, getting the contract settled. And far as that is concerned, that was one of the issues that we want in the contract, to have a committee that we can sit down and go over issues that we all are experiencing. It's not just for ULU, have representation from ATU as well as IBEW to sit at the table and go forward and see what's going on.
Thank you. I'm gonna mute myself again so that I don't monopolize this conversation.
24/7.
I see Val, I see Tyranny has got no.
Yeah, Tyranny. I'm not sure where Val, what happened to Val, but we would love to hear, since you got here, tell us.
Hey, I just want to start off by apologizing. My phone has literally been with AT&T all day. I had a data transfer that went bad. So they had to try to get all this data from my old phone to my new phone. And that was a process. It's still not, everything's still not there, but we've gotten pretty far. At least I got all my contacts. So I'm sorry. I just wanted to play catch up here. So if anybody had any questions or concerns.
We would just like to hear, we were in the I don't know where Val went, guys, so I've just jumped in here. We've heard a lot this evening about the unions and that there are so many more issues other than just the ULU 100 issue. But tell us a little bit about your experience at RTA right now and why you think joining ULU is going to be helpful.
Well, man, I've been at RTA since 2018 of March, and it's been a roller coaster just within the first 6 months. There's a lot of issues within RTA that may eventually work themselves out as far as with management. But for the most part, what brings me to wanting to unionize is my experience and what I've seen others experience. A lot of unfair treatment, bad hiring practices. I've seen a lot of people come into the company that they're not from New Orleans, which is not necessarily always a bad thing. It's about if you New Orleans is a precious city. So if you come here, you have to take the time to learn about the city, to understand what the passengers need, what the workers need, because we're very unique. So a lot of them come in and they don't understand the culture and they don't understand how to give the city what they need. I mean, how can a computer that's creating routes document potholes? We know they have a lot of potholes, but they'll have the route set up to where the street is receiving is under construction, and then it's rerouted. So the passenger, they'll see the route one way on the app, but the route never went that way because it's a pothole. And it's a lot of things like that we want to be involved in when these topics come up. Like, it's almost like we have no say so. A lot of things we can prevent from happening if they just gave us a voice. Just give us a voice. We could see it's a disaster. We knew New Links was going to be a disaster. We knew it. We knew we didn't have enough equipment. We knew ways to try to figure it out. But no one wants to listen because I just don't get it. But if they hired more from within, where people who actually did the job could have that opportunity, this company would be a lot more successful than what it is now. We can't change the fact of what's happening with the buses as far as the maintenance, where we're at now. But I believe that the problem wouldn't have gotten there if they had people involved that were from here locally, that actually cared, and not just coming to work to get a check or to go to meetings all day. I never seen somebody go to meetings all day. Like, I mean, you're going to meetings all day to what? To say we don't have no buses? We know that. Are you going to meetings to say they don't have operators? We know that. But the supervisors are least respected.
Okay. Tammy, thank you. I'm sorry, you all. This is Valerie. I'm on my phone and I kicked my own self out. So I do apologize. Tammy, I'm so glad to see you. But I do want everyone to know that Tierney is one of the shop steward of ULU 100. She is talking in her capacity as a shop steward of Local 100 because the union members voted her as being a shop steward. Am I correct or wrong, Taryn? I might be wrong. Oh no.
You're correct.
Okay. I just want to make that
You're
clear.
correct.
Thank you, Ben, for stepping in. You and Lane, I really appreciate it. So, Taryn, can you? We're about to wrap it up now. We have 6:24. Can you wrap it up and tell us? First of all, where you at right now with ULU with RTA, and how can we help you?
Well, right now with ULU, we're experiencing a little resistance from RTA. I just think that we're not priority. They're kind of like focusing on other things, and we just want to remain relevant because it's important to us and it's important to the agency, the passengers, and the employees that we get this done. So when everything comes into place, and if job changes are going on, we will have this established, because we don't know what management we might get. And then we got to start this process over again. So we just want to be recognized so we can go ahead and collect the bargain fairly.
Okay. All right. And just for the record,
What you
everybody,
need?
ATU, now I want to tell everybody background, just for the record, everybody, ATU do have supervisors in our union. We have supervisors in Texas, Atlanta, Chicago. So supervisors can be in the union. Our supervisors do not have the authority to hire and fire. So how can we help you do this? You just told us what is it. So Elaine just asked an important question. What is the necessary next steps? What stick to the facts. What is the necessary next steps that we can help you, Tyranny? Not you, but ULU.
The next steps, we would appreciate support if you could maybe reach out to the commissioners, the CEO, because we want to be diplomatic. We don't want this to be a problem. We have to work with each other. You know, this is not conflict. This is resolution. So we just want everything resolved, and we want it's no battle, like it's no fight. Just want to be recognized so we can all work together collectively, like how RIDE works with RTA through things. We want that opportunity too.
Okay. That's good, Taryn, and that's good. So we're gonna do you have any closing remarks? And Ronald, we're gonna ask for closing remarks from you. Then after we get the closing remarks from Ronald, we're gonna ask, do we have any candidates on at this forum? You'll be after Ronald, then we'll ask for announcement, then we're gonna close it out. So Tyranny, can you give us your closing remarks?
I want to apologize first for coming late. I'm start off with that because I'm very punctual. Secondly, I just appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to our story, hear our side, and just want to get everything done, you know, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Ronald?
Yes, good evening, freedom fighters. Just like I say, we have been at this for a long time. When you first brought it to my attention, your trials and tribulations with RTA, we have been advocating for fairness in employment and labor rights for a long time. And we've been afforded the opportunity to work with some great people over the years. And it's a fight. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And as long as whether I'm the NAACP president or not, I'm still a taxpayer for the city of New Orleans, state of Louisiana, United States of America. I'm going to continue to fight for justice within RTA and from reorganization and reform. And that's something we don't want to talk about, reform and reorganization. There's now equity or fairness. As an inception, it was regional. How much regional do we have? How much regional is it? We have customers, riders every day. Some have lost jobs. Some had to quit their jobs because they can't make it out to Ashton, the largest medical facility in the state of Louisiana. But yet still, we have folks, and I can name them right now, that they can't depend on RTA to get them to work. And what if we regional transit authority, really? So we're going to continue this fight. And I am honored and humbled by having an opportunity to explain and get my point across of the work that we have been doing. And we're going to continue to fight. And that's just what we're going to do. We're going to fight for justice, wherever it's at and who's doing the injustice. We're going to be here. And I'll leave you with this. My number is area code 504-975-4901. You could call me anything, anytime, anywhere. But one thing I don't want you to do is to call me collect. I know you're in jail, but I do have paroling power. So anything we can do at any given time, just call us. And again, I want to thank you for allowing me to entertain you this evening, to be in your company, more or less to speak. But we're going to continue to fight. And all I can say, when we fight, we win. And we're going to fight till hell freezes over. And when it freezes over, we're going to fight you on ice. And I quote my state president. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Ronald. We have Stacy. Stacy had to leave. Next, we have. Do we have any candidates? We have any candidates? If you want to be added on Justice and Beyond email list, please add your email, specifically send it to Ms. Brooke. She will add you to our email list. And please, we are on Facebook. We are Justice Beyond Louisiana Coalition Group. So do we have any announcements? No announcements. Thank you for joining. We're going to close out with a prayer. Thank you, Lord God, for allowing us to have this platform for RTA employees tonight. We pray, Lord God, Jesus, that you bless both parties, ULU Local 100 and RTA, to come together with common grounds and come up with a solution for the betterment of transit and for the workplace at RTA. And for especially for transportation for the people in New Orleans, we ask, Lord, for peaceful grounds. We be careful to give you all the glory and all the praise. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. David had left. So we thank you all. Be safe. And y'all make sure y'all check out Justice Beyond Facebook page. We'll keep you updated. See you next week. Bye-bye.